More than a year has passed since Russia declared war on Ukraine, and things don't seem to be showing any sign of slowing down. In fact, this war might even be going in a more destructive direction, and all because Western countries like the UK might be giving a little bit more help than they should in order for Ukraine to maintain strength to fight the war. What's concerning is that Russian President Vladimir Putin has already warned the West that if Ukraine receives too much support and becomes indestructible, he won't hesitate to begin attacking other NATO countries. But how exactly is the UK helping Ukraine become more powerful than ever? And could this be the beginning of a war between Russia and NATO? The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has been asking NATO for more military equipment for a while now. But apart from military weapons, Zelensky has also requested more than 300 tanks to gain more strength against the Russian soldiers. The United States and Germany were the first countries to offer help, but the number of tanks they were willing to give Ukraine was not even a fourth of what Zelensky had asked for. However, Zelensky isn't losing hope and has now turned to the UK for help. The president has recently visited Great Britain in hopes that they will provide the help Ukraine needs to continue fighting the war. Upon arriving, Zelensky met UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, and both leaders held a press conference. The conference's main focus revolved around how the UK plans to help Ukraine with tanks. During the press conference, Rishi Sunak said that the UK's Challenger 2 tanks will be sent to Ukraine by next month. The news might have relieved Zelensky as he expressed that the relations between Ukraine and the UK have reached new levels. He also added that both countries are now standing together. But what Zelensky said might put the UK in public danger. Publicly admitting that Great Britain and Ukraine are now standing together might trigger Russia to keep a closer eye on the UK. Since Russia has proven to be unpredictable, people can never really know what might be the thing that will convince them to attack other NATO countries. That is also the reason why politicians are being very careful when they talk about helping the Ukraine face the war. But apart from tanks, Zelensky is also hoping that the UK helps Ukraine with fighter jets. Until now, no other country has dared to agree to supply Ukraine with such aircraft, claiming that it's simply too risky to go forward with such a decision. However, the UK hasn't yet decided if it will help Ukraine with jet supplies. Mr. Sunak revealed during the final comments of the press conference that the UK needs to talk with other allies in order to help supply Ukraine with military aircraft. He also added that this is something that must be done because the UK shares many of its military aircraft with other countries. At this time, it's still unclear whether the UK will be able to provide Ukraine with such aircraft, but the country is still trying to help Ukraine in any way it could. One of which is also by training Ukrainian troops on how to use the UK's Challenger 2 tanks. Soldiers are being trained to use different tanks as well as simulators, but by providing too much help, the UK might be putting itself in great danger. This is because Vladimir Putin is slowly starting to weigh up the pros and cons of nuclear blackmail. The Russian president has made it clear that he's prepared to use nuclear weapons if he feels threatened by any NATO countries. He's also hinted that he would not hesitate to use them first if he felt his country was in imminent danger. So far, this has been seen as a part of an attempt to intimidate other countries into not intervening in Ukraine. In a speech delivered before the Russian parliament, President Putin announced that Russia had tested a new generation of nuclear weapons that can't be intercepted by any missile defense system. The test, which was conducted on the 11th of February of last year, involved a hypersonic glider warhead that was launched from an intercontinental ballistic missile to hit a target at the Kura test range in Kamchatka in Russia. According to Putin, this new weapon is capable of defeating any existing missile defense systems because it's able to maneuver unpredictably and change direction several times during its flight. This announcement is part of a larger narrative about Russia's status as a superpower and its role in world affairs. And with tensions currently being at an all-time high, no one can predict what Russia is planning to do at this time. But if it does unexpectedly decide to attack the UK, things can become catastrophic real fast. The UK is the most densely populated country in Europe, with around 67 million people living within a few miles of each other. This means that if a nuclear weapon was detonated above London or Manchester, it could kill millions of people instantly. But how much damage would a few nukes do to the UK? It would only take less than 1% of the world's existing nuclear weapons to damage the global climate for hundreds of years, and more than 2 billion people might suffer in such a nuclear famine. Nuclear weapons have been used twice before in war, once by the US against Japan at the end of World War II, and again by India and Pakistan in 1998. Both of these attacks were on cities, but they were nothing as devastating as what could happen if someone detonated a nuclear weapon over a major city today. The bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was equivalent to 15 kilotons of TNT each, which is roughly 10 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb, which killed around 200,000 people instantly. But modern warheads are much more powerful than those used in World War II. Warheads now have yields up to 50 kilotons. The most likely scenario would be a ballistic missile attack on London and other big cities, or an air raid on military targets like Portsmouth Dockyard. The Ministry of Defence says that these attacks could cause localised blast damage, which would cause most casualties in the immediate area of impact. But winds can carry radioactive particles far beyond their initial burst point, so evacuations would be necessary for affected areas up to 50 kilometers or 30 miles away from the impact site. A full-scale nuclear war between the UK and Russia would result in tens of millions of deaths and an environmental catastrophe on both sides. However, this is unlikely to happen because it would mean mutual destruction for both countries. But if a nuclear bomb was actually detonated in London, the city would be completely destroyed and much of the surrounding area would be uninhabitable for decades. When it comes to fatalities, this bomb could kill more than 2 million people and possibly injure millions more. The devastation would be caused by the initial explosion and the subsequent fallout. The explosion could create a fireball that would incinerate everything within a mile radius, cause severe damage up to 5 miles away. People who were not killed by the blast would die from burns or radiation sickness within days or weeks. Those who survived would also have to contend with contaminated food supplies, contaminated water sources, and a lack of medical facilities, as well as an increased risk of cancer and other diseases in later life. However, even though the situation might be tense between the East and the West right now, the chances of a nuclear war are slim to none. This is because both sides know that a nuclear war will be catastrophic for humanity and the rest of the world as we know it. So, do you think that the UK is risking a lot by helping Ukraine at the moment? Will this be a strong enough motive to cause an even bigger war between Russia and NATO? Share your comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more.